Hello and welcome. My name is Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness, and this is my dear friend Heather Marie.
Hi, I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate. Welcome to Channel Squared, where we have extraordinary channeled conversations about everyday life topics. Every week, we choose a topic, connect with you, the divine, and our guides, and then channel here with you live.
Yeah, and we're having a little trouble going live today. But we are here. It's a new year, a new you, and a new year and a new you comes with the hope and excitement of, remastering yourself, changing your perception. But how exactly do we do that? And today we are with Jennifer Ruka, perception facilitator. Jennifer offers individuals techniques to explore their past by connecting to their inner world to help heal, transform, and find balance to live a fulfilling and purposeful life. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Yay, I'm excited to be here. Sorry, I just got to put this down.
That's okay. We were all sitting here on pins and needles. Like, are we going to go live? Is it going to happen? And then all of a sudden we were just live. Hilarious. But we're so excited that you're here with us, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about you, like who you are. How did you end up doing this?
Well, you know what? Do you mean the book? How did I end up, or the perception facilitation?
All of it. We want to know all of it.
Okay. So, now my dogs are starting to growl and fight. The second I start talking, you guys, stop that. Well, I'm what I call a perception facilitator. So that is something that I made up myself just to describe what it is, the energy work that I do with people. And that came about over many, many years. That really started about 14 years ago when I got on a journey through yoga. And then yoga took me to really want to discover myself that much more. So it really started uncovering a lot of the feelings that I had and pain that I had buried, and that I started to become more and more in touch with, because I believe yoga really essentially enables us to do that, right? It helps us to feel more. Some people, unfortunately, use yoga as a deflection to feel, like, I'm going to go do yoga so I don't have to think, get out of my head. But it's no, actually, yeah, yoga is meant to feel, to me anyways, right? And so 14 years ago, I started to go on a really conscious journey to want to heal my fragmented thinking. But it was in 2005 that I had an awakening, or what some people might call an NDE, a near-death experience, that really started to change things for me in a way that some might say saved my life. I was completely out of control before that with alcohol, drinking, partying, bartending. Just, it was a lifestyle that was taking me nowhere really, really fast. And it was taking me nowhere really, really fast because it was feeding the emotional unwellness that I had going on, right? So I was using the alcohol and that industry as a way to mask and bury all that stuff as well. But it's something during that awakening year, like when I had that NDE, I don't even know what to call it. It was, like I said, an epiphany. It was an awakening. It was after I had that experience, I went from drinking every single day into a blackout to what felt like a reset, because I had zero desire to drink. And during that first year of that epiphany, or what I call in my book, the whiteout, I felt like I had light blowing out of the top of my head. It felt like it was blowing out of my hands. I was having merges with people's conscious, knowing things about them. And I wasn't doing yoga or anything at that time. So I was very confused about what was going on. And it was interesting because I was doing a podcast interview the other day. And I find that the more interviews I do, or just the more I talk about this, because I wasn't really going into this for so many years, right? That I'm revealing stuff, more stuff is revealed to me. So on this interview the other day, when I started talking about, okay, well, it was when I got into yoga that things started changing. But at the end of that whiteout year, I'm jumping all over the place here, because I had gotten into yoga and really started feeling my feelings, that whole blissful state that I had from that epiphany came crashing down. And now I was in the sobriety of all my feelings. Now I had nothing to mask them, nothing to bury them with. And so I was literally like feeling the charge of all of it. And that's where, you know, things really started to kind of go up and down like this for several years after that, until I made the conscious decision to really want to change my life. That was a really bad explanation of it, actually, because there was so many points I was jumping all over the place.
Well, you know, it's interesting because like it actually brought up a ton of questions. So can I pepper you with some questions? Okay. So my first question, I actually typed them all into this little window here so that I could remember all the questions I have. So my first question is, what was your near-death experience? What happened?
Okay, so I've been bartending, like I said, drinking like a maniac before that for years. But the last year of my drinking, I didn't even work because I was so messed up. Before I was just drinking at night, getting blackout drunk at night. Now I was drinking from morning till night, blackout. So during that last year, I was very not good. And one of the mornings that I got up, it was the usual hungover thinking, oh my God, what happened last night? I don't remember anything. Did I go anywhere? What, you know what I mean? Like feeling my body out. Am I okay? And then that was all normal, my normal. But then what was the abnormal was the excruciating pain that I immediately started to feel coming from my collarbones across my chest down to my hip. So I made it down the stairs from my bedroom down to the living room. And I was so unwell at the time that I'm thinking, I have an excruciating pain, like this hurts so bad. And I looked over at the half empty bottle of schnapps sitting there and I was like, well, if I just take a few swigs, maybe the pain will go away. So I chugged this back, and like literally as I didn't even put it down, it just all came up. So I went to get up to get a towel to clean off, and then I was cemented to the couch. I literally felt like there was 300 pounds on me at that point. And that's when I had the thought, I'm having a heart attack. And at the exact same time almost that I said that, it was like immediately after, I heard the words, yeah, and that's okay. And it wasn't like I just heard the words and I'm hearing them. I felt so at peace and so at ease that I completely let go. And my whole existence went white. So in the book, I call that epiphany the whiteout, because there was no body, there was nothing except for this massive whiteout and two voices that began talking to me. And they started talking to me simultaneously. It was a man's voice and a woman's voice that I knew then, but didn't understand the magnitude of it then until years later, that was God, and that God is the divine feminine and divine masculine in union. So another word for God could be union too. And it was coming out of that whiteout, which I don't even have the recollection of what those first few days or even like, because I just remember one specific point coming out of that, that my life started to change dramatically. And like I said, for the first year after that, it was this blissful sort of like, I felt like this high state, even though I was sober, you know, just mesmerized by all the little things. And then realizing, as I'm telling you just prior to this, that it was when I started getting into yoga, that may have been why I crashed, because all of a sudden I'm moving my body in positions that I'd never moved it. That could be one of the reasons. I really don't know. I'm just guessing because this triggered something in another interview. And I thought maybe it was the yoga that did it because I was peeling back so many layers. I don't know, but that definitely could be it.
I think that's really interesting how you describe this experience. I've known others who have had near-death experiences, and as a almost like an outcome, if we can call it something, of their near-death experience is that they find their way back to God, source, creator, right? And they have, the story is always the same. And the story is that they hear the voices talking to them, right? And they are talking to the voices, and the voices are responding with, it's okay. And it's almost just such a divine, beautiful intervention into, okay, you know, we let you play we're going to course correct you now to what you're really here to do. And so I think that that's really extraordinary, the experience that you had. And I think it's really amazing to hear the similarities that I've heard from so many others who have had an experience like that. One of the things that you had said was about the light blowing out, right? Out of your head, out of your hands, you know, just out of you everywhere. And that's another thing that I have heard in common. And so I think it's really, like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about all of the stories that I've heard about people who have basically died and came back to this reality, and about how, you know, God spoke to them and they are here now, and the light coming out of them, right? I've heard it coming like out of all their openings. I've heard it coming out of their ears, their hands, their shoulders. You know, some of them talk about the light being like behind them, pushing them forward. And so thank you for sharing that with us, because I think that that's just so amazing. And it really gives you a unique perspective on how to handle, I'm going to use the word handle, I guess, how to handle people and all of their shit stories, and, you know, outlet that they have created to be able to heal, because you have literally taken healing, not just from physical, but from the spiritual as well. And so, I don't know, my opinion on healers are the best healers in the world are the ones that have been through all the shit, because they can walk you through it. So thank you for walking that path for all of us and for our benefit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's really nice.
Mhm.
I know that you channel, right?
Yeah.
You channel energies. Now, did something ever, because I find that some people will go through an NDE through trauma and stuff like that. So was your channeling brought about through trauma, or did it just, or how did that happen?
Maybe not. You know, honestly, if it did come from trauma, I don't remember it. So, you know, if it did, it happened at a very early age. I don't remember much from my childhood, to be honest. You know, I have little blips, but there are years and years and years that are completely missing from my memory. And I've gone through years of therapy trying to find them, you know, but I feel like maybe this was like past lifetime trauma that, you know, that allowed this ability to come forward in this lifetime. I did a lot of past life regression work too, when I first started like stepping into my abilities and learning how to control them, because they were controlling me and I wasn't going to have any more of that. So, but yeah. So yoga. All right. So you're a yoga instructor, you're a yogi, you've brought yourself back to the light through the valley of darkness with yoga. Do you do this with your clients?
Well, what I do, so the participants in my yoga classes, like I work at studios, so I'll go in and contract out to instruct some classes. But mainly what I do is the perception facilitation. So that's when I come in, where I align with certain people, certain individuals that are wanting to go down this path, because it is a very unique path to walk. Because for a lot of people, they're like, ooh, energy work, right? You're doing distant healing work, you know? And so for me, my business is always run on word of mouth. The proof is in the pudding. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody that I've worked with has come to me and had results, because I've had people that nothing's happened. And so that's fine. For whatever reasons that is, we move on. But majority of people that have come to me were aligning because there's a readiness to actually move through their old programming into a new version of themselves, right? Letting go of the past in a way that has to, from my point of view and from my perspective, has to come on an energetic and psychological level. So in other words, we might have programs running us. And what I mean by a program is like anxiety is a program, cancer is a program, digestion issues are a program, yeast infections are a program. All these things are programs that are literally operating us, that we're semi-conscious to. And so because we're semi-conscious to them, sometimes it doesn't matter how much yoga we do, how much organic foods we eat, how many workshops and retreats we go to. So in other words, how much self-work we're doing and how much we're taking care of the body, we can't shift that programming. And so we need to align with certain people that are going to help us, assist us on the journey to actually transform those programs so that we're not controlled by them. So we're essentially taking our power back. So that's where I come in and act as a conduit to these people. So I sit amidst the cellular whiteout, so to speak, because that's the most loving energy that I've ever come to know, and meditate to act as that conduit. So it's the same with me. Like I traveled all over the world after I got into yoga, finding people that I believed for whatever reasons were going to help me evolve too, past a bunch of my own crap. And that was going to reveal to me so many of my own inner knowings and learnings and abilities to assist people on their journeys. And so anytime I hear of anybody that's, you know, like, oh, I went to see this energy worker, they were amazing, I saw this psychic, I saw this channel, I'm like, I need to go see them, because we never get the work done. And especially as energy workers, as you guys know, we need that. We need that assistance as well, because we too are caught in the filtered lens of our stagnated thinking, right? And the old programming that's running us. So perception facilitation is me energetically halting these programs, and then the person's body repairs itself. So I don't heal the body does that on its own. Once the programs aren't running it, we start to think differently. So I don't change the thinking, I halt the programming, and you automatically are going to think differently without anxiety, or without an infection, or without some form of inflammation in the body. I'm working a lot of people with autoimmune disease disorders lately. And so, and people will come to me for all sorts of different things. But once those programs, so to speak, aren't running us, the brain's going to produce different chemicals and hormones for us to think differently, for us to feel differently, hence perception facilitation. So our perception literally starts to change once we're not being held backwards by these programs, because they essentially do live backwards in the past and are overriding us today, making us reality blind. So we can't see that it's a friendly universe when we're in this fragmented thinking. But when someone comes in to help peel back those lenses, like I had people do with me, and I'm grateful for, then it's like, is that what it looks like out there? Holy shit, I thought it was terrifying all this time. I thought there was no way out. And that doesn't mean that I don't still have stress and anxiety or worry about things. I do. But I have different tools now and knowings within myself, you know, that are going to help me walk through that so I can see my way out of it.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. The question that I have, like, you went from, you know, drinking and like that party scene where, I mean, I'm sure the people that you were surrounding yourself with at the time were very similar.
Yes.
I don't know if, yeah. Yes.
Or
Okay.
they were what some people might say more dangerous. Because that was actually, I'm glad that you brought that up, because in one of the chapters, I can't remember, 8 or something, it's called After the Whiteout, I explained what some of the stuff that happened that first year. And remember I said I couldn't remember coming out of the whiteout, meaning like, yes, I was in the state of white speaking to God, but I don't remember all of a sudden coming out of it. I don't remember the rest of the day when I puked all that stuff up on me. In other words, like I don't remember that.
You don't remember cleaning yourself up or
no.
what you did
So
next.
The only thing I remember is having a phone conversation with this guy that was not well, but he was only not well because I was not well. So the birds of a feather flock together. And I said to him, you need to come over. We need to have a talk. And so he came over that same day. And I said, I can't see you anymore. Every time I've gone out with you, I don't remember anything when I get home, nothing. And so in other words, maybe I'm being drugged to do God knows with whatever too. And after that, my place got shot up about when was it? I guess it was about it was within 6 months. I went to work at the bar sober, and the police came in, and they were like, we need to talk to you. There was 5 or 6 bullets that went through your front windows, through the kitchen to the bedroom windows. And the guy that I was seeing was there earlier with his friends because they were coming to the bar because it was the Stampede week, the big whoop up, you know? And so they literally just missed, could have killed these guys. Anyways, now, was it that guy that I said I couldn't hang out with anymore? I don't know, because there was a lot of like I said, you know, off-center people that I was hanging out with because I was so broken, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was a lot of dramatic changes with the people I was hanging out with, my environment, what I was attracted to, what I was willing to accept from people, you know, the boundaries that were now set in place for how I would allowing people to talk to me and treat me, and lots of things changed.
Wow. I can imagine like a lot of things fell away, like relationships.
Yeah.
But what about your family? I don't know if you're close with your family or not, but I know for me that was nerve-wracking going through my experience of learning to channel and doing all of that. And I kind of kept tight-lipped about all the things that I was going through until I was really, you know, flat-footed or secured, like very grounded in who I am and what I am experiencing. Like I didn't really open up to them, but how was your experience with your family?
You know what? After that, I was never really close with my family. You know, I grew up in a fairly dysfunctional home. I guess depends on what your point of view is on dysfunctional. But I did grow up in a home that I felt was very dysfunctional. So we were never really a close family, but the relationships that I did have with my mom and dad weren't necessarily healthy, the relationships that we did have. So once I started feeling all my feelings after getting into yoga, I got really mad. And I started to really have a lot of resentment to my mom in particular. So when I grew up, my dad and my mom were divorced. They weren't in the same house. And my dad was an alcoholic. So there was a lot of, I drive back and forth to, you know, from Calgary to Lethbridge or whatever to see him once in a while. But stuff with my father started to actually come up and be resolved as of last year, all those years later. But it was the stuff mounting from 2005 on that began with my mom, where during the first year when I was in that bliss state, I was actually really close to my mom, felt really, really close and really, really good to her. It was when I was feeling my feelings that collapsed and I started to get really angry. So when I started getting into yoga and then started traveling the world and aligning with these people to help me, that's when I began the mending journey with my mom. But it wasn't until just over a year ago when the SIT method part 2 that I offer in the book was born, that I really started doing a lot of the cleansing work with my mom and set myself free from needing to forgive her in any way. I literally love my mom today, and I can say that wholeheartedly without having to talk a single word to her.
Wow.
Without having to actually have a relationship with her. I love her more now than I ever could. And does that mean that I'm never going to have a relationship with my mom? No, I don't know, because I don't read the future. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that I care about her and love her deeply. And I also know that I care and love myself, which is a constant journey. You know, it's a daily thing, well enough to know that it's important for me to remove myself from certain situations that are not healthy to me, right? When people are not necessarily on the same frequency, which doesn't mean I'm up here and somebody else is down here. It just means we're at a different learning, a different frequency. And each place is whole and complete until the mind comes in to obliterate it and says, I'm over here and you're over there. It's like, no, we just actually are on different vibrations right now. So there's the break, whether it's for a lifetime or not, who knows? Yeah.
Wow.
But
I
what
think
happened? Now I'm all curious about your journey with what happened with your family when you started doing the channeling. Like, what do you mean? Did they stop talking to you?
No,
Oh,
no.
Oh.
No, I had a lot of friends fall away, which was really devastating, that were really, really close to me. And and I can look back now and see it from a different lens, because I felt isolated from those people and pushed away, like kind of like dropped or like forsaken by those individuals because I was different. And I could see that I was a part of that as well, because I did put up more boundaries around myself because I didn't feel safe with them and them knowing this part of me. So I put up a big wall so they couldn't see me. They couldn't, be a part of that because I was afraid of how they were going to react. So I could see how I played into that with my family. I mean, I was on the internet talking about how I'm channeling and doing abundance consciousness and whatever. And my dad would ask me a certain like number of questions and I would kind of keep it vague. And I knew that they were watching and they're so proud of me and they love me. But when it comes to like the spirituality side of things, like, hey, I'm channeling beings from the other side. And, I believe that there's multiple timelines and that there's past lives and like you were in my past lives. I didn't open up about that stuff until probably a couple of years into channeling and everything. And I was afraid to tell my dad. My dad's a cowboy, redneck, farm man. He's, turning 70 this year. So, set in his ways. But he's also, when you start talking to him, he's very philosophical and open to things. And he does personal development. And he just started in his retirement doing Qigong and like tapping. And like, he's going on this journey in a slightly different direction, but also with spirituality. So we started talking about channeling. And the first time that I ever told him, like, hey, I'm a channel. So I talked to beings on the other side and, Heather taught me how to control it so that it's not all the time and, all of this stuff. And he's like, I think I do that when I deliver a eulogy. He's like, I always know how it's going to start. And I kind of have an idea of the middle, but I have no idea when I get up there to deliver a eulogy, what I'm going to say at the very end. And then it just drops in. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably your higher self in connection with the person that you're, doing the eulogy for, delivering that message to all those people there. So it was wild, his reaction to it, because I wasn't really quite sure what he would say in the private conversation, but just between me and him. But it ended up being good.
Though, because sounds like he really, really, really loves you in that he was giving you a really safe place. He had to expand his mind quickly to take that overview and be like, where can I relate to that to connect with my daughter in this moment? That's so beautiful. Oh,
yeah, it is beautiful.
Yeah. So nice.
Yeah, it's funny, we've talked a few times about how our families were when we decided to come out of the spiritual closet, and what that was like. I know with my family, my dad was much more open to the ideas of it from like a church God sort of relationship. Like that was how he was able to like connect and understand. My mom, on the other hand, I think for a good amount of time thought I was, sitting in the corner with a Ouija board and wanted nothing to do with it. And so, I think there was a little bit more fear, for her with it. At least my dad did a good job of not showing any concern or fear about it, where my mom was a little more like, you do you, I'll do me, but we, didn't change our relationship in any way. And I think what the big turning point for them was seeing me trans channel. Like, I'll never forget the first like live event that I had was, well, not the very first, but the second live event that I ever had. I invited them to, and it was on Zoom with a bunch of people. It was during the pandemic, and you know, afterwards I was like, okay, like I took a few minutes to regain my own consciousness, and then I had to call mom and dad and do you know, damage control and see if they were like going to answer my call. And I remember my mom picking up and being like, that's freaking amazing. She had other words to say, but that was the gist of it. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm not the family leper anymore. But yeah, I think it's interesting how family plays a big role in, you know, the work that you do, and how you experience your connection to God, source, creator, and your aspects of who your soul is, you know. And I think it's also interesting is that, you know, we choose our parents, you know, and when we sit up there and we make our big plan, you know, we're like, oh, I want to go and I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this, and God goes, you're going to need help with that. Who wants to be the parents? You know, and your folks sit there and go, we'll do it, you know? And so I just think that that's really a beautiful thing when you think about the fact that, you know, this truly is just that human experience, and that everything that we are experiencing, we curated in a perfect way for our experience, even if you go off the rails, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And whether you have a really close relationship with your parents or a really dysfunctional one, it's like they're still there to set the tone and the foundation, I feel like, at a certain time. And then, like I said, for some of us to evolve, we do have to separate from family. It's like, okay, for lack of a better word, the contract's up and now it's time to move on, right?
Exactly.
It's almost like I don't want to call it a game, but it's just different frequencies, different levels of existence by frequency that we're moving to. So it's like, yeah, sometimes it's way healthier for us to move on. It was for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, you know, that's the thing is like the contracts, right? It's always about the contracts. Just because you have a contract with these souls to be your parents doesn't mean that the contract is lifelong. It's could be to keep you humanly alive to get to the point where you don't need them anymore, and then the contract is done. You know, and it's better for everybody for the contract to be done. And so, you know, I don't think that in any relationship that it's a indefinite contract forever and ever. You know, in fact, most contracts need to end in order for growth to occur.
And I wonder, you know, Jennifer, you were talking about some, you know, your business has been primarily word of mouth, you know, the something's in the pudding. I can't remember how you put it. Proof is in the pudding, right? But it didn't work for all people. And, you know, I'm just sitting here, and the question that popped in is, I wonder if some of the things that we experience, disease, you know, some of these programs that you were talking about, maybe all of them, that they're contractual. And maybe that's why some could not move past that point, or didn't experience, you know, this healing that you're able to give, because it wasn't their time. That contract was not up, whatever they needed to learn. I don't know, but maybe perhaps that's what's happening for some of those people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that sounds bang on. Yeah, never thought of it that way. So that's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And some people need more concentrated learning of the illness or the sickness. It's like, well, I'm ready, but I'm not ready. But I want to change, but I'm so it's sort of like you're looking out the window of the box, right? You can see that it's light and there's grass and it's looks friendly out there, but I need to stay in here just a little bit longer just to have more concentrated layers of learning, so that possibly when I do go out that window, it's going to be that much more fulfilling. It's going to be that much bigger. The learning will be, the transformation will be that much greater. Yeah.
Jennifer, do you teach? Like not yoga, but like, do you teach your healing modalities? Like if somebody wanted to learn from you.
Yeah, I don't actually. It's funny. I've never done a yoga teacher training or done any kind of workshops. I did one workshop once, and I feel like I don't know, maybe this is just part of my, I'm looking out the box. Maybe I have to concentrate learning here more, but I feel like kind of stifled in that. Like it's different when I'm going to instruct a class. Like I'm going in, I'm connecting, I'm merging. It's almost like music, right? It's like there's an orchestra playing or something as we're moving. Whereas when I'm coming into a workshop, it's like, all right, so let me just pull out the board and then we're gonna go. It feels dry to me and stagnant to me, but maybe that's because of my limited experience in it and my understanding of it. I know that when I did one workshop, I did it with this other yoga instructor. And so the two of us were coming together, and there was all these great ideas before. She was like, let's do a workshop together, and I'm going to do this and you'll do that. And so the day of it, she called me and said, do you have, what do you call it? Those projector things so you can read your notes or do play videos on it and stuff like that or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, oddly enough, I do, because one of my friends had given me one of these, right? When he was moving, do you want this? And it was a brand new one in a box. And I said, yeah, I do. And she goes, oh, can you bring it? Because I'm going to have some of my stuff on there, my notes and this and that. And I wanted to play a video. And so as soon as she said, I was like, okay, I'm at the phone. And then I started to get nauseous. It was like, I started to get more and more nervous. I was like, oh my God, wait a minute. Like she's fully planning this out. And then my mind started going back to all the times that she was sending me videos about this doctor, and all the stuff she was going to be talking about was reciting his stuff. So there's all this preparation of stuff that was going in. So by the time the workshop started, I was so flustered. I was in anxiety because there was a plan now. And I never go in with a plan. I've never planned my yoga classes. I never plan what I'm going to do with a client. I just connect in that moment and then it unfolds. So that was the worst workshop experience that I had, literally when it was my part, because I had to watch her go through all her videos and all the stuff that she had. And I was like, by the time it was me, it was just like a burn and crash, like no other. Oh. And I said, like, I'll never do a workshop or a training ever again. That was the worst experience of my life. But again, because I've always just found that I'm better dialed in to the not knowing and to the just allowing to unfold. I feel like for me, if I plan anything, that's the insurance for me to be accepted, not, and I can't connect with people if I'm looking for outer acceptance. I need to walk in there feeling self-acceptance. And that's how I become a conduit, even in the yoga classes. That's why people will come to my classes sometimes and they'll be like, man, I felt like I got an hour psychology lesson and yoga all in one. I feel like, mentally rejuvenated and physically, because I allowed myself to open up to the room and be with them. So that I wasn't teaching them anything, they're moving through me. So maybe they moved through me for that pose, or to hear that particular thing that needed to be said, that they've heard a million times before, but it didn't penetrate until that moment, all these things. So
but that's not the norm. There's a lot of teachers who regurgitate other people's information, and they have to have a plan, and they got to have a syllabus and this and that, and it's very scary for them. And then also our ego plays into that, just like you were saying, like, oh shoot, like I should have had a plan, I should have had notes, I should have had and that's more for you. Like your ego side of things than that actual connection. But it takes a lot of courage to walk into a room and knowing you have an hour or 4 hours or an entire day or whatever it might be, and having no idea like
Yeah.
what you're going to go through. You're just going to connect. That takes a lot of courage too.
Yeah, it does. And I definitely, due to my massive insecurity my entire life of just feeling stupid, unintelligent, like these are the words I would call myself all the time. So it took me years of a lot of self work, a lot of self-care, however you want to phrase it, to be able to step in to that mindset and not just be amidst it, but emanate it authentically and start to live in my truth. And it was very gradual, it was like baby steps along the way, you know, because my voice was so tiny in the beginning when I was instructing yoga. And then over time, over years, you know, it wasn't like I got louder, I just became more centered.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I began speaking, I was like, this is my truth. I'm not saying my word is law. I'm speaking my truth. That doesn't mean that that's yours. But again, here we are. If we open ourselves up to the understanding that we affect one another through the quantum field, if we understand that and know that, then we'll understand how we're conduits to one another and how there's no such thing as a teacher, no such thing as a guru, no such thing as a healer and a master. There's only vehicles lining up to help one another. Even when we think that we're being triggered and that person's driving us effing crazy, that person, you lined up with them so that they could trigger that feeling in you on purpose to heal.
Yeah.
You know, because if we don't feel, we don't heal. That's essentially what my whole book is about. The SIT method is how to access our feelings and accept all of ourselves so that we're not feeling fragmented, so we're not a slave to our environment, so that I don't need you to keep filling my cup up of self-acceptance, because that's going to be endless. It's a black hole. It's a void. It's never going to be full. Yeah.
So we have a question from our viewers.
Okay.
Let's see. So Vicky has a question. What is or who is a book or teacher that helped you the most along your journey?
Byron Katie.
Byron Katie.
Oh yeah.
Byron Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
And
of
my husband and I actually went and seen her at a retreat too, in Los Angeles years ago. I love her. Yeah. Oh, there's something going on my computer spinning. There we go. Sorry. But yeah, I would say Byron Katie. So any of her books, and she's got a lot of audio stuff happening. You can just listen to her. I love that too. And yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. She's got a lot of good work for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Jennifer, do you teach any of your yoga classes online?
So that is a great question that needs to kick me in the ass, because I like I was telling you before, Jody Lynn, like I literally just would rely on word of mouth for my perception facilitation. And so it wasn't until I wrote the book that I was forced to create a web page. Now that it's just the first page, I guess, like you can't click on things and actually go to another page. Like I just put it up to promote the book. But there is a button on there that's not working yet. It says yoga facilitation. And so what I will be doing with that, I actually literally got the phone number today to a web designer girl, and she's going to help me to put my audio on there. So the yoga facilitation will be me instructing the classes audio only, because I'm not going to bring a camera into the yoga studios, obviously, right, for people's privacy. So you'll just be hearing me. And the great thing about that is it really does become a moving meditation, because you're not able to look. You put your earbuds on or your headset, whatever you're using, or not, or just the audio beside you, and you close your eyes and you really have to be present. Because we can oftentimes go to the yoga class and we're not present because we're just flopping around, looking at people, at the instructor, so we really have to
judging ourselves.
Totally. We have to be in the present moment. And the brilliant thing about that too, is that it's like I tell the participants that come to my class, if you're coming in here and you're not in a present state of mind, you won't be activating your parasympathetic nervous system. You're going to be in these poses in fight or flight mode, creating a lot of possible cortisol levels being burnt out while you're in these poses. So you're going to be pretending to be flexible and strong, and yet you're going to be stressing yourself out so bad. That's why by the time you get home, you're going to feel like the same asshole that you did when you went into the class, because wherever you go, you take yourself with you. I should know, first and foremost. So when we listen and we breathe with our bodies like that, breathing is the number one thing. I tell people, listen, you can come in and let your body automatically breathe you during this practice, but that's going to give what I call the ghost, which is the astral mind, every single excuse not to be present. So now I'm going to be like, as Byron Katie would say, halfway across town arguing with somebody that's not even in the room. And to me, that is the astral travel. Okay, that's not an OBE, it's an astral travel experience. So many of us think that astral traveling is really spiritual event. Most people are astral traveling 98% of the day. They're in body very rarely, and it's usually when they're sleeping. And even then they're out of their body a lot too, right? So when we yoga facilitate online like that through the website, which I will eventually do, it's just a really great way to align to being present and to actually being in repair mode while you're doing the yoga practice, because there's going to be less distraction and you have to be very heightened to your awareness. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, hurry up and get that done. Like,
sign
me up right now.
Yeah. Jennifer, have you thought of combining the yoga class and the perception facilitation into one? Like, I don't know if you'd have to be in the same room with them, or if you could do it like virtual and in room or whatever, but I think you would have the capacity to do both at the same time.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I mean, if that opportunity somehow presented itself, because I'm not sure how to arrange all that, that would be great. So if anybody out there knows, please call me.
Oh yeah, we'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, we're trying to convince Heather to come to Canada to come and visit us. So if she comes, then we'll be making a trip to Calgary, and then you can do your first session for us, private session.
Love that. What's interesting though is during the classes, I do energy work. So no matter what, because I'm in that present state of mind, and I think that's why a lot of students, or I don't want to call them students, participants, leave the class and they do feel so well. Like they'll come up to me and say like, I just feel so good. And I'll be like, that's amazing, because you walked in here and allowed yourself to be vulnerable. And in that space, you moved through me. I moved through you. We're all moving through each other. So I'm doing the energy work in the sense of just being open. But what a lot of people don't realize is when you come into a yoga class and you're really open, even not consciously, they're helping other people in the room too, help doing energy work. So it's a real, I feel like the people that are coming into the rooms are in that state of mind. Otherwise we wouldn't be lining up. And again, because we line up due to mathematics, which is vibration, it would only make sense that everybody in the room is really there to want to heal and repair their thinking, not just their bodies, but their thinking, because their bodies didn't drag them there today. It was their thinking, right? So.
And I want to bring something back around. You said when we very first started, and that is that everybody needs to try and work with everybody. You said it much more eloquently than that, but the reason that I want to bring this back up is because, and I get this a lot, especially in my line of work, channeling for other people. I get a lot of channels that come to me that their channel's corrupt. They're having problems with their channeling. They can't connect. They're just, the energy's all messed up. And so I get them straightened back out, and they kind of keep it a secret. Like they don't want anybody to know, like it's just a shameful thing. And I'm like, you know what? You're only doing half the job if you're not servicing your own physical experience, your own channel. If you're not healing and cleansing and moving through the energy, you're doing a disservice to everybody that you're serving. And so, whenever I meet somebody that has something that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm totally going to try that. Like I'm going to sign up, because I think that it's really important, like you, to do all of the things, experience all of the things, have a healer, have a channel, have a guide, have a meditation person, a yoga instructor, like I really believe in taking care of yourself in that way. And I know that there are other healers out there that are going to hear this episode, and they should work with you. They should move through their own shit, because it's just going to make them even better at what they do.
100%. Like
Yeah.
I literally, if I didn't, and some people will say, well, you don't need to go out there and travel the whole world to find these states of inner epiphanies or whatever it is, right? To reveal your own inner talents. But for me, that's what I had to do in the beginning. I had to use the placebo of the throne world, inner world, to use that, right? And that's essentially what we're all doing anyways. We're using each other as placebos to go in, right? But we get really lost when we forget that. And I make you guys wrong and me right. Now I'm a slave to my environment. Now I need you guys to actually make me happy too. Yeah. Because now I actually believe you're in control of my happiness and my happy place. So for me, I had to go out there to do that first. And then it was in 2020 during the lockdown that that's when I sat at home, because it was kind of forced to. Yeah. And I took advantage of it in a way that I never planned or was like concocting at the time. I would just sit on my couch, and yes, I was interdimensionally traveling. That's when I began automatic writing, and it was coming out of nowhere, which was within me. Nowhere is everywhere, right? Like everywhere. And so that's when I started going in. But for me, I needed to go out first. So I still go out. So Jody Lynn, as soon as you told me about Heather, I was like, oh my God, I have to meet her. I have to see her. I need to know how to channel, because yes, I've channeled different states of consciousness and being and done automatic writing with it, but I don't know how to switch that on. I've never known how to sustain that. I didn't even think that I could make that happen or call that in, I guess you would say. Yeah. I didn't know that until Jody Lynn told me about you. And I was like, oh man, so I'm always like wanting to learn and grow and evolve. And, we never get the work done. And the second that we think that we do, lights out, lights out, then we're in our ignorance and we're being operated by our programming, and we're not going to connect to anybody. And we certainly won't be able to help anybody else repair and be conduits to them if we think we've known it all and have mastered it. And I'll tell you, mastering something is so finite. When people say, come to my master class, I'm like, mastered? Well, that's a really finite thing to say. That means that you've learned everything there is to know about that certain subject. So that can't be, because then there's no evolvement in that. We've stunted our growth in mastering something.
Oh man, we could go into so much more, because I think, even that belief system of like, I have to be a master before anybody will listen to me, I won't have any credibility. All of that is a program that's actually keeping you small and taking you away from your own divine truth and your own divine power in a way. So we're going to have you on another episode, because we are out of time. Okay. But if people want to reach you, we're going to put your website link that has your book on there. And I think you have a contact page as well. I do. So I mean, like outside of yoga, you're doing perception facilitation. So if someone's ailing with something physically or mentally that they want to move through, you work with them one-on-one to do that. And then you also have your book. I think I already said that. And then there's the yoga classes. There's just so many things to, doubt, like not DOUBT, but like doubt. Like that word on you. I'm just so excited to be here with you today and to know you a little bit better each time that we get together. As soon as I met you, Jennifer, I was like, she must be a part of our circle. And I think I said that to Heather and to our other, best friend, Jackie, like, she must be in our circle. We need to, connect with her because there's just something so incredibly special about you. So thank you so much for being with us here today. And thanks for everybody who was watching today. And we will be back next week on Tuesday at 2:00 Mountain, 3:00 Pacific, 1:00 Central. All the times. Yeah. Whatever the times are, you could just Google that, but we will be back. And I hope you guys all had a Merry Christmas. And if you are celebrating Ukrainian Christmas this weekend, Merry Christmas to you. Again, I'm, representing more Christmas. We love you guys. Take care.